Welcome to the video tutorial on using Notifier 2 with the Unify Thumper app. Now first of all, Notifier 2 does not require the Unify app to function. Dice, dominoes, pens, crayons, magneto, RFID, they will all go directly to the Notifier 2. However, once you pair Notifier 2 with the Unify app, you get a whole host of new and advanced features that you can use. So the first thing we need to do is turn Notifier 2 on. So if I press and hold the right button, the unit will automatically power up. I'm just going to change that
Notifier connected.
And you see that the Unify app has already detected Notifier. I'm just going to change that brightness level to level 4. Now let's have a look at that pairing process. If I go into Settings, Devices, Notifier. Now, I'd already paired this Notifier with the Unify app, so it automatically repairs once Notifier is turned on. Let's have a look if it's unpaired. So if I disconnect.
Notifier disconnected.
When it gets disconnected, you get 3 strong vibrates in the Notifier to know that's been disconnected. And now I'm just going to turn this Notifier off. I'm going to turn it back on again. And in about 30 seconds, the Unify app will look for the Notifier. It'll pop up as the unpaired Notifier screen. While we're waiting for that, I'm just going to go quickly and change brightness back down to 4 again. Now I'm just going to tap unpaired and pair it.
Notifier connected.
Now as soon as the Notifier 2 pairs, we'll get a Unify Thumper connected message, and we'll download the database from the Unify app onto the Notifier 2. Let's have a look at some of the configuration options that you have. So the first configuration option is the description. So by default, this is called Notifier, but you could call that your own name, or you could label Notifier 1, Notifier 2, whatever makes sense for this particular visualization of the product. Now the stability timer. This is a great feature of the whole Unify platform. This works with both Notifier 2 and also works with the Thumper. So normally events come through and they're reported to you straight away. So let's have a look at that in action. So I've got 3 dice and I'm going to put them down.
Side 3. Side 5. Side 3.
So it's great. As soon as the dice have changed orientation or they've been moved, then we'll get that verbal text-to-speech announcement. So do it again.
Side 3. Side 4. Side 5. Side 4. Side 4.
Now, these have got movement enabled, so we've got movement turned on, and when this vibrates, it generates a movement notification. Now that's all well and good, unless the audience are handling the dice. So what I can do, if I go to Devices, I change that stability timer now. So the stability timer is set from none, and we'll set for the 5 seconds. Now what's going to happen? As the dice change orientation, you'll still get instant update on the visual display. However, it won't report those events to the app for 5 seconds. So that means that I can take the dice here, I get my notifications coming up on here,
Side 5. Side 4. Side 6. Side 3. Side 5.
So after they've been stable for a certain time period, this is when we send the events through. I move them again quickly, those events don't come through. Now another 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1.
Side 6.
Those events will come through.
Side 6. Side 2.
So this is stability timer. So it works best in perhaps a stage performance where the audience members are handing a dice out into the audience, as you don't want a text-to-speech notification every time the dice changes orientation, only after it's been stable a certain time period. The next feature is respond only to registered devices. Now this is a great feature. What that allows us to do is, by default, the platform operates in unregistered mode. That means any unified device that is close by the notifier will be displayed on Notifier and come through to your app. But you can run the system in a registered mode. That means only your devices are going to be reported. The easiest way is to perhaps demonstrate that. So if I go into to have a look at these 3 dice, I'm going to register these dice. So at the moment I've got 4 dice which are registered to me. So that means if I take these dice and we're running unregistered mode, then we'll get all 3 events coming through. I'm now going to unregister.
Side 5. Side 6. Side 2.
We're now unregistered the red dice.
Side 6.
And I'm going to change my settings in Notifier. So my stability time I'm going to put back down to none. Now I'm going to run this in registered mode. So now if I take the 3 dice and shake them.
Side 2.
So as you
Side
can
5.
see, we're only getting responses. The red one's been ignored because it's not registered to our platform.
Side 3. Side 1.
If I now change the system again, I change respond only to registered devices to be off. I'll turn the volume down here so we don't get all those text-to-speech notifications. So now all 3 will respond. Now the next feature is decode ProMystic. So Notifier 2 can decode ProMystic devices. We'll cover that in a separate tutorial dedicated to that, because you can assign certain ProMystic devices to operate and trigger events. So you could take a real die, you could map that to, say, a white dice in the Unify system. The sleep timer. This is how long Notifier will remain on until it goes into a sleep mode. So by default, that's 5 hours, which is plenty of time for your performances. You can adjust that directly on the user interface of the Notifier, or you can change it here. I've set this for 1 hour now. So after 1 hour of no activities, Notifier 2 will automatically turn off. Now, if you turn your brightness level down to a minimum, you'll probably get to 8 to 10 hours worth of battery life on the Notifier 2. The brightness levels really is what chews up the battery, that large backlight display. Speaking of that, we can also adjust that brightness. You can see on the Notifier display itself. So the brightness level really comes into play depending on your environment. If you're on a stage performance with stage lighting above you, you want to turn that brightness level right up so you can see the information very clearly. If you're doing a close-up performance in a nightclub, you may want to turn that all the way down so that it doesn't shine and be an obvious tell that you're using some electronics for your magic and mentalism. We also have a screensaver. So by default, when Notifier is inactive 2 minutes, then it will halve the screen brightness. As soon as an event occurs, like a dice gets rolled or a message gets sent, then we'll have Notifier 2 resume the specified brightness, then operate at that normal brightness level for 2 minutes, and then I'll turn the brightness level down again. The events to display, as you can see, when I roll these 3 dice, then we get all 3 events coming through here. If I change the number of events to be 1 event, now I'll just display 1 event. Now, 1 event will take up the whole screen. That's really relevant to, say, playing cards. If you're using second sight and you're getting card value and pip configurations coming through, if you set that to 6, you can actually have 6 value in pips being displayed on the screen at once as the last 6 cards have been selected. But if you're operating from a distance, or as you are with, as I am, as we're getting a bit older, we want a larger display. So it's a trade-off of the size of the information being communicated to the performer and the amount of information that we can display on there. The next feature is the display mode. So I'm going to change this back to 3 events now. Now what the display mode feature does is it specifies which order to display the events. I've got 3 dice here and I'm displaying them in power up order. So if I powered up the black dice, then I power up the white dice, then I power up the red dice, when I roll those dice, that is the order what they're displayed. I'm going to display this in the oldest event first format. So the oldest event would be on the left and the newest event will be on the right. So oldest, second oldest, newest. See, so we're good. Black 4, white 2, red 5. Now if I change that again, so if I do the white first, then the black, then the red, as you can see here, we'll get white, black, red. Now if you want, you can change that again. So that particular feature is useful to know which spectator has rolled which dice. So for example, you may place the dice underneath cups. The spectator places 1 dice underneath each cup. They shake each cup in sequence. Then you know what color dice and what the result is per dice and this under which cup. I change that to be fixed order. Now it's going to display white first, then black, then red, regardless of the order. White, black, red. So that's if you obtain a quick glimpse. Remember, it's white, black, red. You just need to get a quick visual, and then you can recall what the numbers are. So when it changes, it always updates in the same position. The next section is the message management. So I prefer to have my white text color. This is for messages coming in. So if we have got messages coming in from Inject, or we've got messages coming from the web messenger, or from web polling and using Wikitest, then this is saying I want the text to be white, the background color to be cyan. I can also specify the scrolling speed. So I've got slowest, slow, medium, fast, and fastest. This is scrolling if the text is too long to fit on the screen. So for example, if someone searches for the term Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now Schwarzenegger is probably too long a word to fit onto the screen in one hit. So this will scroll Schwarzenegger from left to right. However, Arnold, which probably does fit, or will fit, then the first line might be Arnold, the second line might be Schwarzenegger, but we scroll the text from left to right. Now this next feature is the events on whether or not when we send a message to Notifier, if that message can be interrupted by an event. So let me explain it in more detail. Imagine that we have a message coming in from Inject and someone's just Googled Arnold Schwarzenegger. If I have my event managers don't interrupt messages, if I roll the dice or select a pen or any other Unify event, it will not interrupt the display of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Notifier 2 will continue to display Arnold Schwarzenegger until you press a button on the display, then it will display those last events. You can delete messages. So that means that we may be having the event being displayed on the screen. If we get a Unify event, such as dice being rolled or pen being selected, then we delete the message and we display the current event. We forget about whatever message. This is the concept that you've changed your presentation, you've moved on to the next effect. And finally, interrupt messages. So we're displaying Arnold Schwarzenegger on the screen. If I roll the dice, we'll display the dice values on the screen. When you press a button on Notifier, we'll hide the dice events. We'll go back to displaying Arnold Schwarzenegger. So quite a few different options depending on your performance style and how you want that information communicated to you. We also have the vibrate settings. Now, we have a haptic vibrator built into Notifier 2. It's an extremely quiet vibrator and quite a strong vibrator. Now you can turn the vibrate on or off on the Notifier 2. I've turned it off at the moment just for the purpose of this video performance. But if I want to, I can just turn that on. The repeat and the repeat interval. So if I turn that on, I set my repeats 5 with a 3-second gap between repeats. What's going to happen? If I roll, say, the red dice, then I'll get the initial roll, then I'll get 5 repeats of that vibrate signal at 3-second intervals. If I save that, so it's a 4. So I've now got 4 vibrates. Got another 4 vibrates. Another 4 vibrates. Another 4 vibrates. And another 4 vibrates. So my final 5th vibrate. So that means I've got the initial vibrate sequence to tell me the result is a 4. Now I've got 5 repeats after that, separated by 3-second gap. Now you can adjust the vibrate length. So by default, you'll get 200 milliseconds. So it's 1/5 of a second for a short vibrate, and 600 milliseconds, 6/10 of a second for a long vibrate. That's the default, but you can make that faster or slower depending on your preferences. You can also adjust the vibrate strength. Now I tend to have it turned up to the maximum strength because the vibrate motor is so incredibly quiet, but you can adjust that to your own preferences. Now I can also vibrate the dice color, the domino pip configuration, and also the poker chip color. So if I turn vibrate dice color on I'll get 1 vibrate for white, 2 vibrates for black, 3 vibrates for red. If I take this dice, I'll get the color, then the result. So if I roll, say, a 3, I get 1 vibrate to indicate that it's white. I've got 3 vibrates to indicate that I've rolled through. And then I've got my repeats turning on here as well. So I'm going to turn those off for the time being. So that's the vibrate settings. We need to cover sending a message. If I want to, I can send a message directly. So Backstage Assistance, for example, could send a message. Hello world, or hello in his back pocket. So you can see in his back pocket. You see the text is automatically adjusted to fit all that in. I can also send a vibrate setting, so a short vibrate, or I can send a long vibrate. In the advanced configuration, we can actually send very colorful messages. So, hello, we're going to send that with a white text and a cyan background, large writing. I'll type in world here. We have a red with an orange background. Large. We're going to send that message. So the test send message is really for Magic App developers to configure the system. And finally, device notifications. So you can turn on or off groups of devices with Notifier. So this is similar to the registered mode, where you're telling Notifier only to respond to your own devices. Here you're turning off those group of devices. So, for example, if you're finished performing with dice and you want to get rid of any interruptions, they're still out in the audience, and just turn them off. And now nothing happens when I roll the dice. I'll turn those back on. And that concludes the video tutorial on configuring Notifier 2